Welcome, STEMgineers, to STEM to Stern, the podcast where curiosity meets critical thinking. Join Chauntée and Jake as they discuss STEM topics that spark debate and exploration.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Jake.
I'm Chauntée.
And welcome back to STEM to Stern. Today, we are discussing cybernetics.
Cybernetic organisms.
They're doing the robot.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, first and foremost, whenever I think about any type of cyborg or cybernetic organisms, I think about Inspector Gadget only because, like, he's got it all. Like, could we ever actually have these, like, spring-loaded arms and, like, helicopter hats and things like that where it's, like, you know, part of who you are? I'm obviously, like, curious about where we've gotten to at this point in scientific research. I know for a fact there are a lot of things out there when it comes to needing actual help. But before we get into that, I also will say, like, the glasses that we wear technically are a type of what makes us function, or hearing aids. I know that's a part of that as well.
Technically, yeah, you're right.
So how far have we gotten, and how far are we okay with?
Yeah, how far are we willing to go?
That part of it all. So that would be my question on that. But so, for instance, I know for a fact there are these prosthetic legs and arms that become part of, like, the neurons or the nerves inside of your body, so that you can actually feel when you're touching something, even though it's a robotic arm.
So not only can people control these prosthetics with their thoughts because it's integrated into their nervous system, but they can feel stuff. Like,
yeah,
that's crazy,
right? I mean, obviously the expense of that is super high, so not everybody is able to have that. So the prosthetic legs that are more commonly used are not that way. But we have those and the ability to do those, but it's not accessible to all. So it's not as commonly used. Also, bionic eyes for people who are blind.
I've seen some articles about that. Yeah.
Yeah, which would be amazing, right? To give the people ability to see that don't have the ability to see. To give the people ability to be able to bend their ankles, for instance. When you do have a prosthetic leg, you don't have the ability to bend the joints down there because there's no joints there when you have a prosthetic leg. But there are robotic legs that do that for them. And again, the expense is crazy, so it's not as accessible for all.
So those kind of technologies, like, give people more points of articulation so that their prosthetic limbs behave more like natural limbs.
Correct.
Interesting.
Just super neat.
You know, that makes me wonder, like, would you get a cybernetic replacement for something off the cuff in the future if that technology becomes available?
I mean, obviously I would consider it just because I would be curious about it.
Because it would be cool.
Yeah. I also feel like, first, obviously, I want to make sure that everybody who should be getting them is getting them, and I'm not taking from people who should be getting them, of course. But if it was just accessible to all, I'm not saying I wouldn't consider it, because, like, what if some of it gives us the ability to fly? I don't know if I wouldn't want to do that. But how much of my body am I willing to, like, alter?
Exactly.
And then how much do I just become more machine than human? And how do we feel about that?
Like Darth Vader, more machine than man.
Like, Iron Man concept is great, and then you start to see that actually becoming part of your actual body, and then it starts to be a little bit terrifying to me.
And it also brings up the question, like, if you had the ability to replace your natural body parts with, like, advanced prosthetics and these cybernetic enhancements, like, if you kept going and going and going and you replaced all of your body parts with cybernetic parts, are you still a human? Are you a robot at that point?
That's a good question.
It's kind of like a ship of Theseus sort of situation. And the reverse of that is a great little movie that I like to remind you guys of, called Bicentennial Man, starring Robin Williams. That's kind of the opposite, where a robot replaces all of its parts with human parts.
Yeah.
So it's like, is he a human now?
See, and the other part of that makes me nervous when it comes to, like, putting more robotic, like, add-ons to my body, I start to become more like a robot, right? And you think about how robots are able to be hooked up to machines and altered by humans a lot faster.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, what if something short circuits because someone found the ability to, like, make that happen.
There's always potential for hacking in that situation.
Correct, which opens up the door to a lot more scary things to me when it comes to that. Because you think about like, and of course I'm going to bring pop culture up into this, but if you've watched Guardians of the Galaxy and you see some of what happens, I think it scares me a little to think about like this powerful being that decides that they want to alter your body and things, or be able to see what you saw in playbacks and things.
Are you talking about that guy who did all that mean stuff to Rocket?
You know,
I don't like him.
Yes.
He's a mean guy.
So yeah, that's the part where it's like starts to get a little bit scary to me. You start to add on these things because somebody is testing out and trying out things and then takes it the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a scary part of it all. But would you be willing to have some robotic alterations to become part cyborg yourself?
Yeah, and also in the comments, let us know if you think one day cybernetic prosthetics will become essentially identical to natural human limbs, things like that. Like, will we reach that point one day?
And how far are you willing to go if you are willing to have some? Is the real question. How far would you be willing to go to for the sake of having these abilities? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Till next time.
Thanks for tuning in to STEM to Stern. We hope today's episode got you thinking. If you enjoyed the discussion, subscribe and share it with others. And be sure to check out our show notes for free resources and links that go along with today's episode. Until next time, keep questioning and keep exploring, STEM engineers.